I have a favorite story about where we cast our attention, and I can't even find the attribution for it. I must not have been paying attention to where I read it or heard it. It may have been told by the writer Anne Lamott. She's one of my favorites. It seems that she was at a retreat center in some remote location. And after all the sessions of the day were over, she started out from the main lodge to walk back to her cabin, only to find that the gravel path was pitch black. No moon, no flashlight, no way to find her way. But she thought she knew where to go, and she trusted that she would be safe. So she set out in the dark. In just a step or two, a motion detector light came on, allowing her to see a little bit further down the path. Enough to get to the next motion detector. And so, of course, when she came to it, illumination let her get to the next one. By and by, she was able to reach her cabin. I love this story. It's simple. You can see where it's going. It's not especially mysterious. But I share it frequently as an example of trust, of stepping out into the unknown, of not needing to see the full path to begin the journey, of unexpected help when we need it the most. It's a story that suits my optimistic nature, and someday I'll come across the proper attribution to it. One of you may know it, and you'll tell me after the service. My optimistic nature is having a hard time these days. And as I've been thinking about this story and the contrast of it to the Wendigo story that Andy shared with us, about how we move forward into the really unknown, or rather, what is known and is too scary to contemplate, and from whence unexpected help will come. In this month of focus on attention, I want to share some thoughts about how we can continue to step out. None of us are really starting a journey. We've been on whatever journey has brought us to this very moment. When we know only a little, but we know something. We can imagine a path, but it has twists and turns we know not of. And we are mindful of how we may stumble in the dark. I want to think about how we humanists step out and how we navigate the puzzle, the riddle of faith and trust and hope. In the story that Robin Walls Kimmerer shares, she is so attentive to the details of the story. Did you hear in the shadows of my footprint, it was yellow and pink, and then later deep blue. I saw the tracks of fox and the tunnels of voles and a bright red splash. You have to be really present to the moment you are in, the miracle of the moment you are in, to see all of that detail. But something else seems to be afoot. The squall is coming. This story is really time-bound. It's beautiful and clear, painfully blue on her trip out. But on the way back, as she turns to get back to shelter, the squall is coming, the roar, and some track that is not her own. And she has in her this story that she heard as a child, the Wendigo, the beast of hunger, the beast of hunger, this human turned into monster that she's known since she was a child. Robin Kimmerer continues in her writing and says, the beast has been called an evil spirit that devours humankind. The very word Wendigo is related to thinking only of oneself. The Wendigo was a human whose selfishness has overpowered its self-control to the point that satisfaction is no longer possible. She continues, scholars point to the current epidemic of self-destructive practices, addiction to alcohol, drugs, gambling, technology, and more, as a sign that the Wendigo is alive and well. The native habitat of the Wendigo is the North Woods, but the range has expanded in the last few centuries. As Ojibwe scholar Basil Johnston suggests, multinational corporations have spawned a new breed of Wendigo that insatiably devours the earth's resources, not for need, but for greed. The footprints are all around us once you know what to look for, once you are attentive to see it, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. She continues, there are everywhere you look. They stomp in the industrial sludge of Onondaga Lake and over a savagely clear-cut slope in the Oregon Coast Range where the earth is slumping toward the river. You can see them where coal mines rip off mountaintops in West Virginia and in oil-slick footprints on the beaches of the Gulf of Mexico, a square mile of industrial soybeans, a diamond mine in Rwanda, a closet stuffed with clothes. Wendigo footprints, all. They are the tracks of insatiable consumption. So many have been bitten. You can see them walking through the mall, eyeing your farm for a housing development, running for Congress. We are all complicit. We've allowed the market to define what we value so that the redefined common good seems to depend on a profligate lifestyle that enrich the sellers while impoverishing the soul and the earth. Close quote. So this is the story of two journeys and what we attend to in our psyche. A step out in trust that we can get where we need to go without seeing all the way, that there will be circles of light to meet us along the journey, and or reading the signs of destruction approaching, breathing down our necks, the cautionary tale of the Wendigo. I don't think it's either or. I think it's both and. How can we be present in this moment, knowing what we hear, if we are awake to hear, if we have eyes to see and ears to hear what is before us, and still find joy and community and love and trust and, yes, faith in this moment. Let me take a little linguistic detour first. In our humanist congregation, we tend not to spend very much time on the concept of faith. We cede this word completely to a theist understanding. In our desire to differentiate ourselves from other religious communities, here we commonly only have one definition of faith, that it is a belief without reason. Right? Faith, belief without reason, that's something we ascribe to those other people who are meeting at 10:30 on Sunday morning, not us. I've been told that we dare not refer to ourselves as a people of faith, and indeed, one of our goals as an intentionally humanist community is inclusivity, so that a secular Jew or a secular Muslim or a secular Christian can be at home here without the need to translate. Okay, good. Yet we are missing a primary understanding of the word faith from the same Proto-Indo-European root as fidelity, fiduciary, confident. For example, our board of trustees hold in trust in this congregation the fiduciary responsibility. Joyce Riedessel reminds us that at each board meeting. I'm happy that you do that. Happy that you do that. The board of trustees are entrusted with the legal and financial power here on behalf of us all. Otherwise, we would all have to meet for a congregational meeting once a month. Aren't you glad they do what they do? Let's hear it for the board of trustees. The deepest root of this word is trust. For theists, this means trust in God. For humanists, it means trust and responsibility to care for each other and the world. We have a fiduciary responsibility, yes, for each other and the world in a large sense. We believe we are, in some large sense, each other's keeper. What are other uses of this faith? There may be faith in that a hypothesis, a scientific hypothesis, will be substantiated by fact. I have faith in my daughter's ability to pass that test. To pull out of our international security agreements is to break faith. It's a perfectly good word. I suggest we do not jettison it entirely. Can we say we're people of trust? We can say that. We trust in the scientific method, as I was reminded by one of our newest members who is 9 years old, almost 9. She says, I trust in the scientific method. We trust in the policies and procedures of this congregation to create a container for personal and societal transformation. We trust each other to uphold the covenant that we say each week. We trust that we can do more together than we can do alone. We trust that no matter what may happen in the kitchen this morning, that Tracy and the crew down there will nourish us with good food. We trust that our children will have their minds and spirits nurtured in the religious education classes to which they attend. And we trust members of our congregation who go down to be with them. Here's why I think it's important to decipher this linguistic riddle of trust and faith. When we get stuck in one supernatural definition of faith and ignore that dimension of trust, we cut ourselves off from groups doing powerful interfaith congregational work on the very problems we seek to engage. There's a national group with a powerful statewide office, Interfaith Power and Light, or IPL for short, that inspires and mobilizes people of faith and conscience to take bold action on climate change. Just because we may not find common cause with the Catholic Church or the Evangelical Church on reproductive justice or gay rights, or with the Muslim or Hindu community on one God or many gods, or on any of the various definitions of faith that these communities might hold, this should not preclude us from finding the common cause we do have in creating a more just world, in working for the future of our planet. I can name any number of organizations that do excellent interfaith work. And our insistence on how very different we are from all those other folks that are meeting this morning cuts us off from the hope and trust and, yes, faith that these groups help to grow. Just like the Wendigo, a sense of self-survival and hyper-individualism is killing us and each other. And what of hope? Hope is an emotion that's characterized by positive feelings for the immediate or the long-term future, and it's so important in a psychological sense to have hope, not only to have goals, but that we can reach them, that we can strategize and move in that direction, that we can get closer to them in spite of the darkness that may appear along the path. Hope allows us to approach problems with a strategy set suitable to success. There is good news. There is reason for faith and for trust and for hope. Our new climate justice team is on the move, and it invites your participation. Building on previous congregational efforts, like our Green Sanctuary designation 10 years ago this year in 2009, and our solar garden work that was born and continues to bloom, really focused around 2016, but it continues to grow and give gifts. We will address our carbon footprint and focus on providing information and promoting positive, results-oriented action on the climate crisis. And by the way, we are going not to refer to it as climate change, but the climate crisis. The team, which led our 9:30 Practice of Justice session this morning, has included a survey in your order of service today. You got it? You all got your survey? Okay. I'm going to ask you to take a moment after the service to fill that out and help us to frame the agenda for the coming year. And if you add your name and your email address, you can get more involved and we can kind of target what you're interested in doing. Members of the climate justice team will collect your surveys at the door, or if you leave them in the pew, we'll be able to get them that way also. Next week, our Music Sunday will explore climate change through art with a program entitled Earth, Environment, and Extinction. This music represents all these different landscapes and creatures and the interconnectedness of all things. Today at 12 o'clock, Professor Demian Wheeler from United Theological Seminary will be talking about the varieties of naturalism, how we take our belief in the scientific method and increase it to awe. The darkness takes courage, the darkness takes time. Living in the darkness brings a different state of mind. The darkness knows healing, the darkness knows change. Oh, Mother Darkness, I return to you again. We do not know where all this path will lead us. We know there is trouble ahead. We are just beginning to see it. We know there's trouble ahead. And we know that we can step out in hope, in trust, with faith in each other to walk along the path, and more will be illuminated as we go. Thich Nhat Hanh says, in the quote in your order of service, our true home is in the present moment. On this uncertain path, with companions of the heart, we can keep the Wendigo at bay and together seek increasing circles of light. Blessed be, and may it be so.
Thanks for listening. You can find much more about humanism and what's happening at First Unitarian Society in Minneapolis by visiting our website at firstunitarian.org.